can make the home more fun, more warm, and of course, loud. But their joy makes every day a little bit more special. Hi Wicca Nation, welcome to another episode of Couch Conversation. Today, it's all about the kids. I'm your host, Natalie Sawyers. May is Child's Month, and as we celebrate our nation's children, we wanted to provide you with tips and advice as to how to keep them safe and healthy throughout the upcoming summer holidays. Joining us on the couch today is Dr. Lisa Franklin Banton, consultant pediatrician, who has some great advice for parents, guardians, and caregivers. Dr. Franklin Banton, thank you so much for joining us on the couch.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
You're welcome. Tell us, as a pediatrician, you would have seen several cases of children coming in with cuts and bruises. How can we as parents make our homes more child-friendly and safe?
Okay, so let's go from room to room. I think that's perhaps the best way for us to do it. So one of the most unsafe areas in the home would obviously be the kitchen. So some of the things that we can do, so knobs on the stove, making sure that we have covers on those knobs so that kids can't interfere with them. When we're cooking, you want to cook on the back burners so that they can't reach and pull hot objects on themselves. Having latches for the cupboards and the drawers. So we have a lot of sharp utensils in the kitchen. So you need to make sure that those cupboards and drawers are latched or closed, and that you even have the sharper materials perhaps a little higher up that young kids can't get to them. Putting away matches. I mean, so often we are hearing about fires being, houses being set on fire because kids have access to matches. So matches really should not be in a place where kids have easy access to them. So they really should be put away safely. Let's move now to the living, the dining, the open spaces. So we come to like our tables. The edges of our tables need to be covered so that we can't have injuries to those places. Tablecloths, as nice as tablecloths are, there is a potential for that to be dangerous. So hot items being on the table, young kids yanking those tablecloths off the table, and hot objects coming on them and they getting burns. Cords, so hanging cords, making sure that they're put away properly. I mean, kids can very easily get strangled and choke from having cords around. Our appliances and our plug holes, making sure that they're covered and that they're sealed. I mean, kids see that as a way of putting things inside of them. They can easily become electrocuted. So you not only need to make sure that they're sealed, but they're sealed with proper covers that they then can't easily take off and put in their mouth, and they become choking hazards. So you need to be careful with that as well. Large pieces of furniture. So we may think that kids can't move large pieces of furniture, but you have to be careful. So we really advise that those large pieces of furniture are strapped down for younger kids, because obviously if those heavy pieces of furniture fall, it can be a big problem. So you have to be careful with that. Water is we have to be careful with water. So bathrooms, laundry rooms, it really only takes a small body of water for a child to drown. So you have to be careful. Our bathrooms need to have lids on them, need to have clips on them so that they can't go into the toilet bowls. The laundry rooms, you're soaking clothes in a basin of water. That's all it takes for a young baby or a young child to go into that body of water and easily drown. So you have to be careful with that as well. Our bathrooms, you need to be careful in the bathroom or bathtubs as well in terms of collecting water. Another area of safety is making sure that our chemicals and our medications are put away properly. I mean, too often we are having problems with kids getting access to these things, so they're not being stored in appropriate containers. We're storing them in the drink containers. So kids are used to drinking from those. So if they see them, they're not going to differentiate this is a harmful substance and not put it to their mouth. So it really should not be stored in such a container. And the container should be such that it's not easy for them to open as well. So it should be a child-proof container that we are storing these things in. Medication should be stored in high cupboards that are locked. A lot of medications look like sweets. My kids may think, oh my goodness, this is something for me to take, and that can be a hazard as well. So those are some of the tips, some of the things that we can do around the home.
In 2017, it was reported that children under 5 years old accounted for 75% of reported cases of poisoning island-wide. Tell us, how can we make our homes safer so that our children do not get poisoned?
Right. So again, it goes back to making sure that we store these things in appropriate containers. So these substances come in those containers for a reason because of how hard it is for them to open. So when we take them out of those containers and store them in something else, it becomes a lot easier for a child to open them. They should not only be stored in appropriate containers, but where they're stored in the house. So it should be stored high enough that the child has no access to it. And if it has to be stored lower down, those cupboards should be locked so that the child can't easily get into those containers. So it's very important that we put those substances in the correct containers and have them locked away or put away high enough so that kids don't have access to these
Excellent.
things.
Good advice there. Doc, tell us, what should one do if a child is accidentally poisoned? And can you just tell us some simple safety tips that every parent and guardian should learn?
Okay, so if you think that your child has been accidentally poisoned, I think you should proceed to the nearest health facility, may it be to a physician's office or to the nearest hospital. One of the things that I usually advise parents is to have important numbers nearby. So on the fridge, near the telephone, have a pad with important numbers. Your number, so that if there's a caregiver at home, that caregiver can easily get access to you. The numbers of your physician, so if you have a pediatrician, a general practitioner, those numbers, the number of the nearest hospital, and the number also of ambulance services. So you may have a caregiver who is at home alone and need to get to a health facility urgently. At least those numbers would be nearby. But definitely, if you think that your child has been accidentally poisoned, proceed to your nearest health facility.
And are there any simple safety tips that one should do between the home and the hospital?
Okay, so it really depends on what this child would have consumed. So in some instances, you may want to try to see if you can get the child to bring back up. So maybe if there were tablets that the child may have taken, you would try to see if we can bring back up those tablets before they're absorbed into the GI system. But there are other instances where you wouldn't want that to happen because, for instance, if it's a bleach or something that is more corrosive, you wouldn't want that child to bring it back up. So there's no one thing that you should do. It really depends on what the child has taken. So my suggestion would be, if you do have a number to a health, your physician, that perhaps you can touch base with that physician, explain to them the child has swallowed X, Y, or Z, and then that person will be able to give you more specific instructions, because everything doesn't fit one situation. It really depends on what it is. Sometimes you may want to tell the parent to give them some milk to coat the stomach. You may tell them to want to try to see if you can get them to bring it back up. But again, it really depends on what it is. But what you would want is, if you're on your way to a health facility, again, making sure that the child is breathing properly, the child doesn't fall asleep. So the two things will be to make sure that that child stays awake and alert. So you would want to ensure those two things before you en route to the health facility.
Understood. Now, Doc, the summer is coming in hot. What can we do to keep our children hydrated?
Yes, it's very hot. So it's not only about hydration, it's also about protection against the sun as well. So as far as hydration is concerned, I mean, it's so easy for our kids to be out there, they're playing. Well, hopefully they're playing and they're not inside sitting down on their Xboxes. So we want to encourage them. So please encourage them to go outside and run around. But you really do have to think about hydration in those instances. My suggestion is that you fill a container of water. So a water bottle, and you have times where they have to come back and do a water check, a water break, where they come back inside and you make sure that they consume some water. As far as the sun protection is concerned, you want to encourage them to put on hats. You want to encourage them to put on their sunblock. So we think that we're not supposed to wear sunblock. We are supposed to wear sunblock. So encourage them to put on their sunblocks, to wear their hats, and to come back and do checks where they're hydrating on a regular basis.
Great. Dr. Franklin Banton, what other safety tips do you have for parents?
Okay, so one, I would advise that every home should have a first aid kit. And in that first aid kit, you can have simple things: gauze, alcohol, allergy medication, pain medication. Have it in a place where everybody knows where it is and it is easily accessible, so that if there are any cuts and bruises, you know where to find that. The other thing that I would also suggest that I had mentioned earlier is to have a list of numbers close at hand, so that you know that, if there are any emergencies, it's quick on the draw. You know how to get to those persons. The other thing that I would suggest, doing safety checks on a regular basis. And when you're doing those safety checks, when you have young kids at home, get to their level, see what they're seeing, so that you know what are the things that you need to put away, what are the things that you need to make sure that are out of their reach. It's also going to be summer soon, so I think I would mention as well, when we're going to the beach, when we're going to the river, when we're going to the pools. First of all, kids should not be going to these places unsupervised. You would have one or two older kids though who think, I'm big enough and I can go to these places. Still encourage them to always carry a friend. So don't go swimming without a friend. Even if you think that you are the best swimmer in the world, always have a friend. And be careful with young kids, especially around water. Do not have them unsupervised around the water.
Dr. Franklin Banton, we want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure the advice that you have given us will be helpful to everyone, including myself, who is a mom of two. Hi, Stefan. Hi, Savannah. And to all our awesome viewers, we want to hear from you. Please feel free to drop us a line. Until next time, see you on the couch.